You probably believe that people who commit atrocities are fundamentally different from you. More violent, more cruel, more broken. But what if that belief is exactly what makes those atrocities possible? What if the most disturbing truth isn't what humans have done in the name of science, but how normal the people were who did it? None of them woke up thinking they were evil. Most believed they were helping, advancing knowledge, following rules, doing their job. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why that's so unsettling and why it matters to you more than you might want to admit. When we look back at the darkest moments in scientific history, we often imagine monsters, sadistic doctors, heartless researchers, people without empathy. But history tells a very different story. Many of those involved were ordinary students, nurses, assistants, technicians, people with families, morals, and daily routines. The real danger wasn't who they were, it was the situation they were placed in. Because under the right conditions, the line between ethical behavior and cruelty doesn't disappear all at once. It fades quietly. Science, more than almost any other field, carries authority. White coats, degrees, institutions, carefully chosen words. When someone is presented as an expert, we instinctively trust them. We assume they know something we don't, that their decisions are grounded in logic, not impulse. And that trust can be powerful, powerful enough to override personal doubt. When science becomes an unquestionable authority, morality often takes a back seat to procedure. This is where obedience enters the picture. One of the most famous psychology experiments ever conducted showed just how far people are willing to go when an authority figure tells them it's necessary. Participants were instructed to administer what they believed were painful electric shocks to another person. They could hear screams. They could hear pleas to stop. Many were visibly distressed, and yet most continued. Not because they wanted to hurt someone, but because they were told it was required. Because the person giving orders wore a lab coat. Because responsibility felt external. What's happening in moments like that is subtle. The mind shifts the burden of responsibility away from itself. If someone else is in charge, then someone else is accountable. The action no longer feels like a personal moral choice, it feels like compliance. And once that shift happens, the internal alarm that normally stops us starts to quiet down. We tell ourselves things like, they wouldn't ask me to do this if it were wrong, or they know more than I do, or the most dangerous thought of all, I'm not the one deciding.
This kind of thinking doesn't stay in laboratories. You see it in workplaces where people follow unethical instructions because a boss demanded it. You see it at institutions where policies matter more than people. And you see it whenever someone says, I was just doing my job. Obedience doesn't require cruelty, it only requires distance from responsibility. But obedience alone isn't enough. To consistently harm another human being, something else has to happen. That something is dehumanization. It's the process of slowly stripping away the idea that the other person is fully human. Names become numbers, people become subjects, suffering becomes data. Language changes first, and emotion follows.
Once a person is reduced to a category or a label, empathy becomes optional. It's easier to justify harm when you stop seeing someone as a whole individual with a life beyond the moment. In scientific contexts, this often happens under the guise of objectivity. Emotions are framed as interference, compassion is treated as bias, and distance is praised as professionalism. This is why some of the most harmful actions in history weren't committed in moments of rage, but in calm, controlled environments. Clipboards, notes, observations. The pain was real, but it was processed as information. And when suffering is turned into a variable, it stops triggering the same moral response. The brain adapts. It numbs itself, not because it's evil, but because it's trying to function within the system it's in.
And then there's the group. Humans are social creatures. We look to others to understand what's acceptable. When everyone around you seems comfortable with what's happening, your doubts feel out of place. You don't want to be the only one who speaks up. You don't want to look weak, ignorant, or difficult. So you stay quiet, and silence becomes agreement. This is how normalization works. At first, something feels wrong. Then it feels uncomfortable. Then it feels routine. When harmful behavior is repeated without consequence, it slowly becomes invisible. Not because it's harmless, but because the group has collectively agreed not to see it. Responsibility spreads so thin that no one feels fully accountable anymore.
What's especially disturbing is how often these situations continue simply because no one stops them. Everyone assumes someone else will intervene, or that if it were truly wrong, it would already have been stopped. This diffusion of responsibility creates a kind of moral paralysis. The system keeps moving forward, even when everyone involved feels uneasy. Here's the part that's hardest to accept. Studies and historical evidence suggest that most people would behave the same way under similar conditions, not because most people are bad, but because most people are human. We overestimate our moral strength and underestimate the power of context. We like to believe we'd be the exception, the one who speaks up, the one who refuses, but statistically, that belief is comforting fiction.
The most dangerous assumption you can make is that you're immune, because when you believe you could never cross that line, you stop watching for it. You stop questioning your environment, and you stop recognizing the small compromises that lead there. Understanding this isn't meant to make you feel guilty, it's meant to make you aware. Awareness is the difference between repeating history and interrupting it. When you recognize how obedience works, you can pause before blindly complying. When you notice dehumanizing language, you can challenge it. When you feel pressure to stay silent, you can ask why. Ethical failure rarely announces itself. It arrives quietly, wrapped in justification, routine, and authority, and it relies on people believing they're incapable of it. The truth is, the same psychological forces that shaped the past still exist today. Different tools, different language, same human brain. So the real question isn't who committed these acts decades ago. The real question is what conditions would need to exist for you to do something you never thought you were capable of. And more importantly, would you recognize those conditions before it was too late? That awareness is uncomfortable, but it might be the most important protection we have.